guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. We've had an incredibly snowy day today, but I'm thinking it might be the last one. Knock on wood. Not taking any chances. Not that that does anything. Well, so it says it's snowing now, heavy snow, and then it's going to turn to rain. And then we've got one other rainy day on the forecast, but you guys, at the end of the 10-day, we have a 53-degree sunny day listed, nice. Which means we might be on our way to spring, which from year to year is so different. Like last year, this time we were out planting. We planted a serviceberry and some other things, the kids and I outside. So every year can look incredibly different, but it is a blessing to get the moisture again this year. Our reservoirs were full last year, but they're like we need a reservoir like here. Because our ground is so soggy. Yeah. Feels like it's going to swallow you up when you walk through it.
It does. It's very soggy.
As it's raining and stuff out there, I'm like, what is going to happen? Where's all of this going to go? It's a good problem for us to have here in high desert. And I don't think there's anything we need to talk about before we jump into this video. Nope. First video this past week was fresh snow, another snow day, seedling pot up, and baking easy crusty French bread. So I have to remember exactly what we did. I showed the fresh snow. And then we went into the greenhouse and we potted up geraniums and artichokes into 4-inch containers. And in between all of that, I was running inside doing our easy crusty French bread. Easy crusty French bread. Buttery.
Flaky, crisp.
I just keep thinking about that. Anyway, I had mentioned it in a previous post or video, and several of you guys wanted to see the recipe. And although it really had nothing to do with gardening because it didn't utilize any gardening ingredients, which when I do anything regarding cooking for us and our family, I usually try to make sure it has like a garden element to it. But this was a super easy bread, and I think it's a blank canvas to add. You could add herbs to it or do like an herbal compound butter to serve with it, and that would be amazing. So anyway, that's what the video was. Torytown said, can anyone tell me what brand proofing bowl Laura uses in this video? I got one from Amazon and it's not good, tons of splinters, which is a bummer. I got mine on Amazon too, and I will tell you what mine is called because I will search for the order right now. Mine are Kootek, Kootek Banneton. Kootek Banneton. Bread proofing basket set of 2. And then Gina's channel asked a similar question and asked what size the proofing basket is. Is it a 10-inch? And no, mine are a 9-inch round. Sylvia said, just a cultural curiosity. Do you keep your outside shoes on while in the house? Only some parts of the house are everywhere. Sorry, but for an Eastern European, it's kind of a cultural shock. Yeah, you would be shocked if you came over here. And I don't know if it's a regional thing or what, but I've only ever been in one house in my entire life where they were militant about taking shoes off at the front door. So yes, we wear our outside shoes inside, and I understand all of the things, and I feel like having this question so at the front of this video, we're gonna have a comment section full of
it's just
triggered.
I think it's just the way that you're raised.
I think so too.
If you're raised to where it's not, an issue. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some people who literally live with a dirt floor,
right?
And they live. Yeah, they survive.
Yeah, and like do what makes you feel comfortable. Absolutely. And if I came to your house and I was a new guest, I would take my shoes off. I wouldn't like it, but I would do it out of respect for your home. But I don't make anybody do that at our house. Unless you have really muddy shoes, we do have booties, like the little slip-on booties. And like Paul and Bethany and myself and Aaron will all put those on our feet if we know we'd be tracking mud across the floor. Yeah. Like that's not something we do. But otherwise, we just kind of in and out. We're just in and out all day long. Yeah.
We don't roll around on the ground so much.
No, and our house is not dirty. Like, it's not dirty.
No.
The floor, we vacuum the floor. I probably run the vacuum downstairs in the kitchen almost every evening. Yeah. But that's like kind of a thing that I would do after we eat dinner. And, the kids are still learning. There's still some crumbs and stuff on the floor. And I don't like that. So I pick that stuff up. Yeah. I mean, if we never vacuumed, it might be a problem.
Sure.
Yeah. Kara said, when is it too late to use the winter sowing method? It kind of depends because if you've got a specific seed that needs a cold stratification period, which means it needs a certain amount of weeks of cold in order for like the seed coat to break down and to help with the germination. If you are beyond that window, I would say that you may not have enough time for that specific seed if it needs let's say you're 6 weeks to your average last frost and that seed needs 12 weeks of cold. Well, you might not have enough cold left in the season to get that seed up and going. But for most everything else, you could pretty much do it like at whatever time based on your seed packet recommendations. I wouldn't try to push it any closer to your average last frost date. Like if a stock seed, maybe, I don't know if this is true, but is it a 6 to 8 week before last frost? I think. I wouldn't start it like 4 or 5 weeks before your average last frost date, probably. You'd have really small seedlings. B. Coco Pellick said, I see you have one of those butter thingies, a butter bell. I don't know what it's called. Do you make your own butter or do you just put store-bought butter in there? Is it truly okay to just leave on the counter with the water? Yes, it is. Anyone who knows, please educate me. I'm thinking of trying this. I love it. Isn't it awesome to have soft butter?
Yeah.
So I have made my own butter in the past. I have a butter churn, like a one that's got a crank. I've got like a big jar that the thing's attached to. And I've made it that way and then just in like a mason jar where you shake it. But I just put store-bought butter in ours and it keeps for like 30 days. The thing is at the bottom of that butter bell, you put a 1/2 inch of water and when you stick the bell down in there, it creates kind of like this airtight seal in there somehow and it just keeps your butter soft and nice. There's been one time where I noticed an off smell from the butter, and it was when there was only just a tiny bit left in there, and it had been a while. Like, I don't even remember how long it had been in there, so I thought, oh, I'm going to wash you out. But most of the time, it's awesome. Donna said, can you print the recipe? Several versions are going around. Thank you. Looks so yummy. I did not put the recipe in the description. You can just watch the video right down the... I mean, there's like 4 ingredients in it, I think. Yeast, salt, flour, and water. Pretty simple. Opal Richardson said, I could almost smell and taste the bread. At what point would you add the herbs? I would just add it into the mix, like some dried herbs would be really good. And also, like I said, you could work some into some softened butter. That would be amazing. Or you could melt some butter after it's done baking and brush the top and then sprinkle like some sea salt and some crushed up or really diced fine rosemary over the top. That would be good too. And how much would you add? That kind of is personal preference. I made a quick bread loaf today that had a whole tablespoon of dried herbs in it. And it called for like basil, thyme, and oregano. I just used Italian seasoning and it was a whole tablespoon of the dried herb in one loaf pan. And it's really flavorful, really good. So I probably, maybe you could start with a couple teaspoons and adjust from there. Sarah said, how old are the geraniums? I started those beginning of January, didn't I? Do you remember?
Mm-mm.
Well, the video went out on January the 8th, so I probably filmed the video on January the 6th when I planted them, or right around there. So at the time at this point, they're over a month old. At the time we repotted them, they'd still be like right at a month or just slightly over a month old. Nancy said, how do you know when your seedlings are big enough to pot up? You can pop one out of its little cell pack or whatever pot you have it in and see what the roots look like. And if it looks like the roots are pretty thick and there's a lot of them, it might be time for an up pot. Most of the time people are following the instructions on the back of a seed packet saying, 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. Start these seeds 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost. And if you start them within that window, oftentimes you don't have to worry about potting them up. A lot of times I like to start things really early so that I can pot them up and get a little bit of a bigger plant before I'm ready to plant them out for the season. The next video is starting snapdragons, purple bell vine, verbena, and teucrium seeds, plus horse paddock fencing is done. So we just spent a lot of time in the greenhouse that day. I started 300 snapdragon plants, so 6 trays with the paper pots and 2 different varieties. We did snowflake and apple blossom, which those are the 2 colors I kind of lean toward every single year. And I got other seeds, I've got lots of peach and apricot and purple. I've got some of the lavender ones, red, and I just wanted to kind of refine it a little bit this year and do more of fewer colors. We'll see how that goes. Purple bell vine is a seed that one of you guys sent me from your plants, and they're gorgeous. And I didn't even realize. So Erin, the Impatient Gardener, had done a video on starting her bell vine, and she used our paper pots in the video, which was so fun. And she showed how you can cut off 1 row on the end and 1 row on the side of the paper pot thing, and it fits inside of a standard 11 by 22 tray, which is so awesome to know. So I was really thankful for her, doing that, trying that out. And then she also shouted out our store, which was so sweet. And she grows purple bell vine every year. I believe it's one of her favorite vines, annual vines. So I'm excited, and I'll probably need to get some tips from her along the way. I've been looking at the flat every day. It's only been a few days since we planted them, and I think it takes a while for them to germinate. So hopefully they get with it. We started the verbena, bonariensis, which is like the standard verbena. And then teucrium, we tried with the winter sowing method. So Lori, who had sent out the original packet of teucrium a while back, I just now got to planting them this year and had spotty germination. So she sent out a fresh pack and said, just try again. So I thought that doing that with the winter sowing method might be a good way to go. And just in case they need a cold stratification period. So those are outside, and then I gave you a tour of the horse paddock fencing, which is done, and it looks awesome. Bonnie said, with paper pots, do you bottom or top water? I top water everything. I don't bottom water very many things at all, except for my African violets. Bronwyn, said, hi Laura and Erin, I love your channel. Thank you. I note in your winter sowing task that you said the seeds require 6 to 8 hours of daylight. Will your first round of winter sowing be disadvantaged by being buried in snow? Or is the 6 to 8 hours of daylight just a soft target? It's 6 to 8 hours of daylight once they've sprouted, which they won't sprout until it warms up, so we're good. The snow should be gone by then. The Fat Cats Farm said, do you have a new channel? The Gardens at Elders popped up on my suggested sites, and it surprised me because the one video I opened was of you in the Mini Vista Yellow. It looked like your grounds. I thought I should ask. They have permission to use those videos, so you might see from time to time a garden center from around the country using something that we have filmed specifically for them through Proven Winners. So it's legit, it's totally great, and we love them. They've been super supportive of us, and we're thankful for them. Missy Flutter said, you said you use vermiculite on most seedling trays. When don't you, and why? I typically will use it if it's at hand. I won't on some of our winter sowing. I don't use it. I could, and I think I did on our first batch. I just didn't on the second batch because I was out of it at the time. And if I'm out of it, I'll just skip that step. Sometimes I'll come along after I get some more, and I'll put a layer on the top because it is really helpful. Yeah, but most of the time I do use it. Joy said, what slow release fertilizer do you use? I look forward to your show every day. So it depends. The slow release fertilizer I'm using for our seedlings, it's a liquid grow from Espoma, and it's just kind of a slower feed organic fertilizer. And then for annuals, I do the Proven Winners continuous release fertilizer. They're like little round pellets that you pop in the soil before you plant, and it's heat activated, and it lasts for it's like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that, 6 weeks. And then we use a water soluble fertilizer every week on top of that, and it creates like massive growth and really healthy plants. And then the other fertilizers we use are like Biotone, Plant Tone, Garden Tone, which are again like a slow release organic from Espoma. Melody said, excited to see the purple vine, and I'm wondering if Lizzie's can be winter sown. I would love knowing which can't be. Does anyone know if Laura has posted a video with that info? I have not posted a video on what can't be winter sown. And I don't know maybe if there's anything that can't be. It just is kind of a timing thing. And I don't know about Lysianthus. That's something to research for sure. I've never heard of anybody doing it, but that doesn't mean it couldn't be done. Good question. Joni said, I'd love to add more perennials to my cut flower garden. Have you tried verbena meteor shower in arrangements? Long stems, long vase life? Yes, I have had verbena meteor shower in arrangements. And the stems, like the plant itself gets like 2 feet tall, maybe a little bit taller than that. And the stems you could probably take down maybe like 12 to 18 inches at the most. So if you're wanting super long stems, you probably won't get really, really long stems out of that one, but you'll get decent sized stems, and they do have quite a good vase life. V. Zeman said, wondering if you're worried about bird flu with your chickens. At our grocery store in Denver, Colorado, eggs have been about $9 a dozen. Yeah, $12 for 18 eggs here. But today there was not one single egg to be had in the whole grocery store. Who would ever have thought that that would be the case? Who was just saying that? I just heard somewhere else in our valley there was no eggs at a couple of stores. You know what? I have not worried about the bird flu with our chickens. Maybe I should.
Well, what are you going to do?
Well, we had that duck, you remember the goose?
Uh-huh.
We had a snow goose that had landed in our front yard, and it just was sitting there for a lot of the day. And it would get up, and then it would kind of go back down. And Paul asked, do you want me to go? I said, no, just don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Let's just watch it for a minute and see if it just needs to rest, and then maybe it'll go. We ended up calling our neighbor who's super great with birds, and she called the right places, and we had a wildlife rehabilitator or somebody like that come, and they gathered up the goose, and it had that
avian flu.
Yeah, or that's what he suspected, because they had several other cases, but it was on thankfully the other side of our house. Our chickens are penned. They've got a run and their coop, so I don't know how it spread. But I haven't been worried about it.
Sure.
And I did order more chicks. My mom and I both did, from a local hatchery here. So hopefully, I'm excited to get a few more birds in there. And the girls are starting to lay again, which is nice. So I am getting a small amount of eggs. from them right now. Next video is repotting a blood orange tree and new concrete at the garden center. That whole day was a cluster. I felt like I could not get my project done. I mean, I think first off, I couldn't find the appropriate size pot and I looked everywhere. And then I went down to the garden center to get a pot. I did find one, but I ended up falling over, like looking at concrete. Like, it was the weirdest thing. I was kind of sitting I was on my toes, like, but I was squatted almost all the way down. It's like my center of gravity just
shifted.
Yeah. And my mom was walking toward me and I was kind of looking at her and I just kind of slowly just went back. And it happened in kind of slow motion. It was the weirdest thing. It did not hurt at all. And then I just laid there for a little while and we were laughing about it. Anyway, it turned into, we looked at new concrete, did a little tour of that. And then came back and got the project done. So it was just one of those weird days. Kay Bell said, one of the best videos of all time. Did you tell Aaron you fell over? Yes. Or is he going to find out at Sunday's recap? No, I told him. I told him that I had fallen down. That doesn't happen very often. So when it does, you have to laugh about it a little bit. Heather said, I need that green gnome watering can for my father-in-law. Is that coming to the store? Is that one in the store?
I don't know if the gnome was going to come or not.
Babs, the pig. Her name's Babs, Aaron. It says it, like it's engraved on the watering can, the pink pig. It says Babs on it. Yeah. So we don't know about the green gnome.
I don't know.
I thought we were getting all 4.
Yeah. I mean, I could check on the store. If we're going to get it, it's probably on the store right now.
A. Morgan said, do all of those lemon buds turn into fruit or do you thin out the fruit? I can't imagine all this maturing on a tree that size. I've never thinned our citrus trees. It kind of feels like they selectively thin themselves. It's weird, but I'll see some, all the lemons will start to form up and they will get, like maybe even a ½ inch or an inch long. And then some of them will start dropping on the ground. And then some of them hang on. So far I haven't had to do anything, but I will be keeping my eye on that pink lemonade tree because it is loaded with blooms right now.
Yeah, it's on the store right now.
Oh, it is?
The gnome.
Newt the gnome?
Yeah.
I love it. The kids love those cans and that pig cracks me up. It waters out of 2 holes in its snout. Kind of funny. Julie said this was such a helpful video. I'm glad. I have a lime and a variegated pink lemon to repot this spring. Question, are your existing citrus in their final size of pot, or do you think you will need to get them into bigger pots at some point? I don't know exactly. What size were those pots? Remember what?
Oh, they were huge.
What nursery was that? What was the
that
name
was
of it?
Petites.
Petites. We got to tour one of their greenhouses where they just have like personal collection citrus, and they were huge. And I want to say their pots were, you think like this big, Aaron? Like that? So ours are in big enough pots to accommodate that, I think, but 2 of them are big plastic like tubs. And I'd really like to get them in some nicer containers at some point. So that's something I'm keeping my eye open for, some larger pots. One of them is in terracotta right now. Brian and Tammy said, have you ever considered putting your citrus or maybe even just one in the ground in the high tunnel? We've thought about it. But we moved so much stuff around in there. In fact, we just moved out, and I don't know if you'll have seen it. I don't know if you'll seen it by the time this one goes out. But we did move out the big water bowl in there because it was just taking up so much space, and I needed to bring another table in because we're getting into that seedling time of year where I just need tons of square footage for those. So I would be nervous to do that in that greenhouse, Flower Fangirl 8 said, I think that's the first time I've clocked Russell's meow. So cute. He was being a little persistent during that project. Just wondering if adding compost to a container is a bad idea. I usually mix potting soil with sheep's compost. It's what is available near me, and I'm unsure if that would make it too dense. Thanks for your advice. For citrus, I would be careful if you're adding compost in with your soil, if you're repotting citrus. Just be careful that it's not too heavy and too much that it hinders drainage. I think that's the biggest thing to watch out for. I think for any kind of containerized thing, adding compost, that's something to keep in mind. So a little bit, I think, is totally fine. Redbud Wood said, fun video seeing your family together and all the laughs. I have a question regarding the succulent arrangement in the shallow bird baths. Do you need to have draining holes in them? Don't recall you drilling holes in them. You don't need to, but if you are a beginner, I would recommend that you do drill holes in them just because it does make for an easier arrangement to take care of. Once you've taken care of succulents for a while, it's a little bit easier to read the plants so that you can see when they're shouting at you for something for water or maybe too much water. Our other bird bath, the big one that we planted up this last fall, I did drill drain holes in. And so when I did, which we're going to talk about it here in the next video, but I did get one of those shallow containers. I did not drill drain holes in that one because our big one even though it has drain holes, water has never gone out of those holes because I water so sparingly. So I think it depends too on how much you like to water. If you tend to be an over-waterer, drain holes probably is a good idea. But if you just dribble in a little bit of water like me and just do it more often, then you shouldn't have a problem. C Still Wagon said, random question, does a large basin of water make it smell like a pond in the greenhouse? No, it never did. No, and it even was starting to have some algae in it, and I could smell the algae when I would go in there and like gather it up, but it never smelled pond or algae-ish in there at all. Hannah Margie said, Meyer lemon, I bought a very small one from a garden center here in Indiana. Can I use the same repotting mix? Please answer. Thank you for an awesome video and for the laughter. You guys made my morning. I would use the cactus mix. I used cactus mix in conjunction with some organic potting soil. So I just did kind of a blend of both of those, and I think that the tree is going to respond well. So I think you could do something along those lines as long as the soil is well draining. It's not holding too much moisture. Next video was replacing grow lights, herb garden update, and a gorgeous succulent arrangement. So we started off in here and we got with Gardener Supply and they sent out lights for us to put back in our grow lights in here. So I needed to do some swapping. I did figure out that a couple of the ballasts are actually bad and I need to replace those. I do have some replacement ballasts in here, so I'll get that all swapped out. But since then, Erin and I have carried back the 2 large trays full of succulents from the Hartley. We brought them back in here and they're under grow lights at this point. So I'm happy about that. And then we took a look at the herb garden that we're starting from seed. Everything's doing great. And you guys, since that video, so we had 3 sprouts in our rosemary container that day, and there's another one in there now. I think I put 5 seeds in there hoping that one would come up. And you know that one, there's one that's larger than the rest. It came up way earlier and it's taking the other ones forever to come up, but I'm just so thrilled about it. So we did some maintenance on those, thinned a few of them out, separated others, fertilized, and just talked through some of those herbs. And then we took that little footed container to the Hartley and I did a little domed succulent arrangement in it to kind of mirror the big one we have in there. That was fun. I just had the best time doing that. L13X5Y said, so helpful. When you put in a new garden area, do you place a weed barrier down? What does the dark mulch put on top around your bushes? We don't put weed barrier or landscape fabric down kind of as a rule, except for in certain situations. In our garden, we've put down weed barrier in our greenhouse and high tunnel areas because those just have a gravel layer over the top. And I didn't want a way for weeds to grow in there easily. Weeds still grow, especially now that we've had this plastic greenhouse for a number of years. You know, all the soil that I've gone through and in repotting, and a lot of it falls on the ground. So I'm sure we have a nice little soil layer under the rocks. So weeds do grow, but not a lot. And I didn't want to have to use any kind of herbicides, and I don't want to be picking weeds through gravel. That is so hard to do. So in those areas, we use landscape fabric. I used it in the walkways in the raised bed garden area. Same reason in there. And then we used it underneath 2 different types of hedges. We used it along our arborvitae hedge here along our west side, but I don't think we used it along the other one. Anyway, so underneath the arborvitaes and then underneath our boxwoods in the Versailles garden because we had such a bad bindweed problem in there. And bindweed, unless you can kill it with a really tough spray, it will just keep coming and coming and coming. And I knew that if I didn't smother it out and just impede its ability to grow, that it would start growing up in those hedges. And once that happens, there's no getting it out because you can't spray it because you'll kill your hedging. So we've used it very selectively in areas, but most of our other areas do not have a landscape barrier down. And then we used a forest compost. It's just a bulk thing that we get from our local rock yard here. They deliver truckloads of it for us, and that's what we use as a top dress. The compost is finer than like a bark mulch, so weeds will grow in it as well, but it just enriches our soil so much and it keeps its color and it looks really nice and it's good for our soil, and that makes us feel good about it. Wendy said, how long do you keep the fan running for the seedlings? I have it running all the time. Like, I don't have it on a timer. It just runs, but it's oscillating, so it's not like pointed straight at the plant and just hitting it all day long, like point blank. It's like moving through the room a little bit, and the seedlings seem to be doing really well with that. Brian and Tammy said, what would happen if you took the basil clump and instead of separating them, bumped the clump to a bigger pot? I took a large pot last year and sprinkled seeds on top and got a massive pot of basil all summer. Did I do it wrong? No. That's perfectly great to do. Sandra said, I love this arrangement and the pot they're in. What is the pink-tipped succulent? I just ordered 4 pink succulents from Mountain Crest. Oh, the pink-tipped succulent. You know what? I think it'd probably take me as long to find the name as it would probably take you to find it. on Mountain Crest's website, like pink tipped. So it could be an aeonium of some variety. There's also a crassula in there that has kind of reddish pink tips. There's also the Echeveria Chris that I used in the center, has the pink tips on the top. I'm looking through there. That's all I really can see in there that have the pink tips. Bonnie said, I saw online someone mentioned sprinkling cinnamon on top of their seedlings to deter fungus gnats. Have you ever tried that? I haven't, but I've heard that, and I'll probably give it a go at some point. Bonnie Jones said, I'm zone 3 and my dill reseeds itself in abundance every year. Do you not experience that in your zone? We have some things that will seed themselves around, but only if they have water most of the time. And so that's where it kind of goes awry for us, or maybe it's a good thing. We can keep our plants controlled fairly decently unless it's a sumac. If there's no drip system running in the area where it seeds itself, they might come up in the spring and then they'll just die out in the summertime because they're not getting water in that spot. Tanya said, what month did you say was a good time to visit the garden center for the new spring arrivals? Oh boy, mid-April through the end of May is like the best time. I mean, it's great even now, like they have beautiful things, and they got their first load of roses in today. They're bare root roses, which is so exciting. And they'll start getting more and more things, especially if we start having nicer weather. We'll really start amping up here pretty soon. And it just gets more and more awesome. But you can see more of what the plants will look like later on in the season, because a lot of times when we get early loads in, when we're looking in March somewhere getting loads, which we get a lot of tree orders in at that time, in shrubs, they don't have their leaves yet, which we prefer they arrive without leaves because they travel way better. And then they can break dormancy on our schedule and you don't deal with, frost damage or anything like that, because they typically come from more mild climates than we are in here. But anyway, mid-April through end of May is great. Next question, Laura, can you please find out what the name of the unique stone planter is, and would I be able to buy it from your mom? Several of you actually called the garden center after this video and asked to have one of those planters shipped. They do not ship concrete. I think they tried it at one time and it was just kind of a pain to do, and with breakable items and super heavy items, it can be hard. So you might go to Unique Stone's website, and here I'm going to see if I can find the name of it for you right now. There's a Find a Retailer tab toward the top of their website, so you can look at that and see if there's somebody near you where you can get one ordered in. I don't know if it would be under like bird baths, because it's kind of like a bird bath sort of situation. There it is. It's called the Cassin, Cassin. Cassin bird bath. There you go. Allison said, will the succulents last a long time when they're so packed in? Not enough soil for root growth with that many plants? That's one of our top asked questions whenever I do an arrangement like this. So I usually try to head it off at the pass and answer that question either in a post or in the video. And I don't know that I did in this one, so I apologize for that. But usually in a mixed arrangement like this of succulents, you can get upwards of a year out of an arrangement like that, which I feel like is a long time. A lot of things have to be repotted in a year's time, because they've filled up their container and they need to be moved. And succulents are incredibly accommodating plants. They will live in very close quarters for a very long time. So you might need to come in at that year mark and pop a few out here or there if you want to maintain that same arrangement, just to allow the others to have room to grow and fill in. Or you might just want to disassemble it and do something else with those plants, which I oftentimes like to do because I like to look at different and new things. But they are very easy plants to get away with that. And they don't need a lot of soil because they're very shallow rooted and they get along just great in that situation. C Still Wagon said, are these lights still something you would recommend? I am just curious to see how many extra parts Erin will get for the just in case scenario. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, these light systems have been just wonderful. And had I known that they were having an issue about putting the lights on the website, it's just that one size, I would have called them a lot sooner. I was just kind of waiting because I kept checking their website thinking maybe they're out of stock and they just don't have them on there or whatever. Maybe one day they'll just magically show back up on the website. But I really love all of our grow light systems in here. I think they've all been great. Okay, you guys, we skipped posting the last video of this week because it's Aaron's birthday week. So by the time this comes out, his birthday week will be over, but we wanted just one extra day to be able to celebrate. So we did not post one of the days. So the last group of questions for today is from last week's recap. Pippa Rose said, how do you judge if a video is successful? Likes or views or both? You said the black walnut tree video got 61,000 views, which is a lot for a video you say bombed. Which is your most popular video, and do you use these stats to decide what sort of content to put out? I don't think I use any of the stats to decide what to put out. basically put out whatever content I'm going to be doing in the garden that day. There's a lot of days where I don't even know what I'm going to film. I just get up and I'm like, what do I need to do? Like, what fits in with the weather? What do I have next on my list? That's what we're filming today.
Yeah.
And I don't know, 61,000, do you?
Well, I think it's a series of things like, do you feel good about the video? That's number one. And, you know, right now we're getting between like 100 and 150,000 views on pretty much every video that we're posting.
On that first day,
usually. On the main channel. And so that's kind of our gauge. Like if it's below that, then we kind of know like, oh, maybe it just didn't resonate with people as much. And then we can also tell if there's a lot more comments than usual. So like anybody who watches our channel knows that we don't like bait people into commenting or bait people into watching. Like the titles and the thumbnails like pretty much are what you're going to find in the video. So if there are extra comments, it's usually genuine. And that's usually a sign that, you know, more people are engaging with it. So yeah.
I actually don't watch very many stats either. I used to watch stats a lot. And I've just got to a point where I just don't. I don't watch like revenue and views and stats and things like that. I mean, like the first day I'll watch a video and be like, okay, you know, are there specific questions I need to be answering? We used to answer every single question, and I just realized that going forward, if we were going to put out as much content as we do, answering every single comment every day I would need to hire somebody to do that, because it's just, I don't want to just give like yes, no, you know, answers. I would want them to be a little bit more involved, and that would just be a really hard thing to do. But yeah, largely, I don't really watch a whole lot of that anymore. Black walnut tree video is incredibly specific. So the fact that it's at where it's at makes complete sense, because there are not a lot of people dealing with that thing. And really, I don't do a lot of like evergreen content either. Like very specific learning, educational videos. I just found that I don't like doing videos like that. I don't enjoy that. I don't want that to be my style of video. And there's a lot of good videos out there like that. So, I mean, Epic Gardening does a fantastic job with educational content, and I've used his videos a lot to help me with certain projects. So, yeah, it just doesn't work with my flow quite as well. Anyway, Robin Johnson said, how about a lottery system to win a chance to get or buy a ticket to come to the meet and greet dinner held at Andrews? I know I would absolutely drive up to Ontario from Utah at this fabulous opportunity. And you could potentially do it twice if it isn't a dinner, maybe just a meet and greet with drinks like lemonade from your delicious lemons or something similar.
It's a good idea. It's a good way of doing it.
We don't have any event in the works right now, but we were just kind of floating some thoughts, you know, that we had, and maybe doing a meet and greet at the garden center, a farm to table dinner. It would be fun to do some things like that more closer to home. But we will let you all know if we ever decide to do something like that, with plenty of time to think about it and plan and so on and so forth. Crucerella said, weird question, but I'm too practical. With all the outbuildings you've added or came with property purchases, do you have bathrooms in them? Could be a pain to have to run back to the house from the red barn throughout the day. Yep, it is a pain.
But we've got the gators.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, the gators do help quite a lot. I've thought about, like, wouldn't it be nice to have like one of those camping setups where you've got like a 5-gallon bucket with a bag, and then you've got like the little toilet seat that sits on it, and then you could just have it in the flower shed if an emergency situation called for something like that. It might not be
so close to the house.
Close-ish. I am the type of person though who will wait till the very last second.
You can be in the house in like a minute, like less than a minute.
Yeah,
and I feel like
there's times when I come busting in and I'm like, nobody talk to me. I have to go to the bathroom. So like it happens.
Yeah.
You know, where it's cutting it pretty close. I've thought about it. Heather said, how do you like your Swig mug? I'm in need of a new one and I'm considering that brand. I love mine, and I bought a second one and I cannot find it. I think somebody came and stole my Swig mug and my rolling pin.
Probably did.
At the same time. That's what's happening. I use it every single day, all day long. So I only drink 1 cup of coffee now in the morning. Like, I just kind of stopped drinking Diet Pop last October.
Good for you.
I never missed it or anything, which is weird because I'm a lifelong Diet Pop drinker, and coffee all through the day. And my sleep was a little bit weird. I've noticed no improvement from stopping. So it hasn't improved my quality of life, other than the fact that I'm less maintenance now because I don't have to have that all the time. But 1 cup of coffee in the morning, and as soon as I'm done with that, I start up the kettle and I make myself a cup of tea, and I drink this cup of tea until like it stays almost too piping hot until lunch almost. I sip on it very slowly through the day. And I usually go through like 3 of them in a day. And I usually have one like I'm taking it to my shower at night. Like sitting on the bathroom counter, and yeah, I love it. James said, I have a zillion questions, but since we're in the middle of a snowstorm, I'll stick to houseplants. How do you decide between pebbles, moss, or no soil cover for houseplants? I think it just depends on how the plant looks to me. I'll look at a plant and be like, you won't look good with moss under you. Like ferns tend to not look as good because I feel like the moss and the fern texture is too similar. So it just kind of looks like a big gob in the end. So I like to do more pebbles or like a barky kind of top dress for a fern. So I think it just depends on what the plant looks like. For me, that's just a personal opinion. Love and Lavender said, love the video on plants for sun or shade. Would Midnight Masquerade Penstemon or Fall in Love Sweetly Anemone fit this list? How would they do in 2 to 3 hours of sun? I think they need a little bit more. The anemone, you might be able to get away with it. But I do think the tag says full sun to part sun, and a part sun situation is usually 4 to 6 hours of sun. So you might try it. Some of the Japanese anemones, like the older varieties, tend to do really well in shade, so you might try something like that. The penstemon definitely needs more sun. Chris said, do you use a drench on boxwoods? When do you apply? We do not. We do not use a drench. I wish there was one that would keep mites off of boxwoods, but we just have to use regular contact sprays. Lori said, what was the name of the show that you said you follow? Was it Secret Supper? There are a lot of different ones. Can you be more specific? It's an Instagram. And it's called Secret Supper. I've never been to one of their events, but I long to go to one. When we have a more mature garden, I would love for them to host one here. Oh. It's secret_supper on Instagram. And it's got kind of a tan colored with white letters in their little circle picture thing. Vicky said, just curious, do you store your Christmas balls and decorations in a conditioned space?
No.
No. Well, the big spheres that we made are down at the warehouse, which is conditioned, but those are the only 2 because they were just so big. They had to go down there. And then the last one, which we kind of talked about before, but Jess said, has anyone else been struggling with the volume of the videos lately? I have to turn the volume all the way up to hear it, and then when an ad comes on, it's so loud.
I don't really know. We've been playing around with it, and it's not like that for me.
Well, we've not done anything different.
I wonder if those are TV users that are dealing with that.
I don't know.
Yeah. I wonder if it's people that watch on a TV, because I'm not seeing that with my phone or with my tablet or my laptop or any of that.
Me either.
And we don't have anything hooked up to a TV. And it's really weird to change settings or whatever just for one subset of users.
Yeah.
When it's well, it's fine on the phone. So yeah, gosh, I don't really know. Yeah,
that's a tough one. Well, we haven't done anything different on our end. And Taylor and Aaron have both been looking into it. Did we inadvertently, do something that's creating that? But I don't think so. Everything looks the same.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, that is it for this week's recap video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're having really nice weather. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.